welcome to the September 18th Coordination Circle for the Lifeboat Academy. And as is our custom, we start with a land acknowledgement. And uh, would anyone like to do the land acknowledgement? All right. Um, I just did one, and I'm always surprised what comes out of my mouth. And what came out last time was really different than most of them. And so I'm wondering what will come out this time. We begin by acknowledging the land because the land was here before we were. The land will be here long after we are gone. And everything that we need to survive and thrive comes from the land and returns to the land. And so, in acknowledging the land, we are really bringing our attention to the fact that we are interconnected and interdependent. We are interconnected as people, and we are interconnected as beings and creatures to our more than human relatives, and to the soil and the rocks and the sun and the wind. And we are part of something that is much, much larger than us. So we start by acknowledging the land um, as a way of bringing our minds together on why we're really here in this meeting and here on the planet. And in doing that, we are dipping into ancient indigenous wisdom, a custom that has developed in many different cultures and has been maintained throughout generations because it's recognized how important it is for us to remind ourselves of all our relations, and we're all in this together. And so we dip into that deep well of tradition and acknowledge that this is a tradition that has been kept alive through countless generations because there have been wisdom keepers who often hold this wisdom at great cost to themselves. And so we acknowledge the hard work that has been done to keep this knowledge alive. And we use it as a way to prompt ourselves, to remind ourselves to do what we can, where we can, when we can, to make things a little bit better, to heal any harms that may have happened, regardless of why they happened, and to try to be in right relation, striving for whatever that may mean. And so, with deep gratitude to all of the wisdom keepers who have handed down this tradition to us, and as a reminder that this was brought to our attention through Truth and Reconciliation. And so, very specifically, this is a reminder that we have work to do in healing our relations with First Nations people and with the land and the way of stewarding the land that they share with us. So with that, I'm going to invite us just for a few minutes to do a little grounding. So close your eyes if that feels comfortable, and just take a moment to be a body in a seat. And take a moment to feel the gentle tug of gravity, those points of contact, the weight of your hands in your lap, the weight of your clothing on your shoulders and where it touches. And you might start to become aware of your breath, which is always there, whether you notice or not. Constant exchange with our environment, drawing in oxygen that energizes every cell in the body. And with the exhale, letting go of what is spent and no longer serves us. Fresh air or fresh energy on the in-breath, and relaxation and release on the out-breath. Aware that it is a direct connection with our green relatives, a form of reciprocity that reminds us of other forms of reciprocity. And so I invite you to, in your own time, take a few more breaths. And when you're ready, take one deep breath, drawing in fresh energy And on the exhale, to the extent possible, just let go of anything that keeps you from being present with us today. And when you're ready in your own time, join us back in the circle. Hey, hey, the gang's all here.
Hey, hey.
And we just did a land acknowledgement, but yours is still fresh from an hour ago. So, um, we've done our land acknowledgement, and we'll start with just a check-in round. And does anyone have a check-in question to offer up? If not, I like Roland's suggestion from whenever the last time that was, which is, how have you been of service to the land today? And the circle, as I see it, is April, Heather, Ronnie, Roland, and me. So I'll type that into chat as I hand it over to April. How have you been serving the land lately?
By taking the time to observe, to just stand outside and think about nothing in particular, but just feel what's kind of coming at me. So I guess strengthening my physical connection to the land. And on to Heather.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm being of service. The land is really giving me up its surplus in with a real generously. And I guess that I'm appreciating. I'm appreciating the results of all the fertility.
Mm.
Um, and don't know if that's reciprocal or not. Except of course taking care of all of the fruit underneath the trees and things like that and putting them up is a way of also not letting them letting the bugs there come back up into the tree. And so there's a whole point of making sure that the the trees can thrive without having so many pests. Anyway, yeah, that's good on me. um who are we over to now? I'll put the
Over
chat.
to Ronnie.
Hi, Ronnie.
In the spirit of my body is also the land, I took a day off work to tend to myself because I really needed it. And I went to acupuncture, which helped me help the energy in my body move more fluidly and smoothly so that I can show up better for my life and the world. Over to Roland.
Today, I have been in service to the land by breathing and by shedding skin and hair, and by, well, I've been peeing outside. Um, So, and I try to remember I don't need to do anything, that by being, I'm in reciprocity with the land. My carbon feeds, my urine feeds, my skin feeds, and I am fed back. Over to Ben.
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't think about the answer. How have I been? I harvested a little bit yesterday, and actually, I think I'm gonna ditto April because I've just been walking around with the offer not going through, the uncertainty of it. Um, it's been odd being out on the land, and so now it's kind of a reintroducing myself, reconnecting with it, after kind of doing some of that psychic distancing. I think it's, letting myself kind of come back towards it. So yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. And we've got two big things on the agenda. Well, one little thing and one bigger thing. And or at least I'm proposing these two things. One is we started our seasonal review at the last meeting, and we talked about accomplishments. And I just want to make sure that we take some time to gather any lessons. It's always good just to see what might be coming up, but I don't think that we don't need to overwork it or anything, but I do want to make sure we kind of close that loop. And then talking about the fall outreach plan and next steps. And in particular, in light of the fact that we had this offer come in and then not get accepted, um, how does that shape how we want to move forward? Are there any changes, any revisions? And when we get into that, I've been doing a little Aiden time processing some information since that. So there are some Aiden suggestions that I want to pass on to you. But those are the two things that I have on the agenda, and I just want to double check, make sure to see if anyone else has anything else they want to put on. So once around the circle, anything to add to the agenda, and does this work for you? April, over to you.
Roland and I had a meeting just before this, and I think there was something we were going to add to the agenda, but now I can't remember what it was. So hopefully my colleague will remember. Over to Ronnie.
Heather.
Heather.
I'm good. I'll pass. I
Okay.
think I'm good.
Yeah, this works for me too. Over to Roland.
You're muted.
What we wanted to talk about was some of the Aiden stuff that you're going to be talking about. There's some specific references to checking in with Aiden around the warm allies list and stuff like that. So I think you're already going to be talking about it. So that's it for me. Over to
Me.
you, Ben.
Me. All right. Well, actually, you know what? I just realized we haven't done a North Star, and I kind of yeah, let's do the North Star. Let's actually build the lessons learned into the North Star. I checked on the Miro board and I didn't see any last minute additions. So I don't think we really need to go over to the Miro board. But what I'm going to propose is that we do one round of North Star. So what is it? What are we trying to accomplish together? And that also will create a good frame for what lessons might be relevant. And then following that round, we'll do at least one round of any lessons that we may have learned in the last few months. And we'll see how that goes. We might do multiple rounds. And I'm going to say do it in kind of gathering considerations fashion. So one lesson per round. And if we want to, we can keep going around in multiple rounds. So I'm just going to do the notes here since it's going to be kind of combined. So is that clear? First round is our typical North Star. What are we working on? Why is that important? What are we trying to accomplish together? And then after that, we'll start to gather lessons learned from recent experience. Thumbs up, makes sense? All right. And you can always pass and we'll come back to you. So April, over to you for your North Star. What are we working on together? Why is that important? Any combination of that?
I think partly we're working together to figure out how best to work together and how to make that optimal for human beings. And that means stepping outside of business as usual and figuring out other ways to be with each other and to move forward in a practical as well as ethical sense. And over to Heather.
Yeah, I'm taking a page out of Amir's playlist, and he would say, we're working together to grow food and grow community. And finding a way to do that in a place-based way, with the land that we're presented with at this point. And if not, what are the alternatives? Because we're still looking to grow food and grow community. And over to
Ronnie.
Ronnie. There.
Are assessing the feasibility of purchasing slash liberating the property at Spalding Valley Farm, Spalding Road. And if we decide that is feasible, we have a plan in place to structure it. And it's important because holding the land in perpetuity means a much deeper level of security and stability for the pharmastery and the pharmastery's caretakers.
Yeah.
Over to Roland.
We are creating a bubble in modernity to experiment and play with ways of bringing more awareness to the reciprocity that we have with the land, and in a way that is replicable, so that this bubble can grow into its own pocket universe. Over to Ben.
We're going to become a pocket universe. I love it. That sounds just great, actually. What are we trying to do? Everything that people have said. Yeah, trying to create an alternative. And I'm going to add that why it's important. One element of why it's important is I don't know if you've noticed, but things are really cascading out there. And time is of the essence
No
in
kidding.
what we're doing. So, and I was thinking, oftentimes I think of this as rallying the troops, and I had a little bit of a shift. Actually, I think, anyhow, I had a little bit of a shift where I thought it's less about rallying the troops and it's more about gathering the faithful. And bringing the faithful together in a way that we can support each other. Cool. All right. So, and I think, we always have that spirit of being able to respond to what we heard in the first round. But I'm just going to tweak it a little bit and say, so let's focus on any lessons that we've learned recently, especially those, any lesson is a good lesson, but especially those that we can apply moving forward are plus bonus points. So we can always skip if you don't have anything to contribute, and we'll go at least one round, and we can always go more than one. So over to you, April. Any lessons learned?
Well, I'm thinking back to Gumboot Boot Camp and the lessons that were learned about that people come into this community and pharmastery for different reasons, and knowing what those are, and then putting kind of clumps of people together around common interests is one way to go forward. And over to Heather.
Yeah, I think the lesson I keep learning is that whatever we do needs to be transferable. That even though it's place-based, it's place-based and, as Ben would say, it's transferable as well. And that coming together and working together and getting to know each other, trust each other, having ideas about how we can move forward is not lost if we can't have it in this specific place. Yeah, and over to Ronnie.
That we work is scalable, which is really useful as we have to be continuing to respond to changing circumstances and changing capacities.
Mm-hmm.
Over to Roland.
The value of learning from experience and grounding theory into something real and practical. Over to Ben.
Yeah, a +1 on that one. And I think in a similar vein, I remember Becca and I did an evaluation of a facilitator training program where it was working with difficult emotions. And one of the big takeaways for me from that was the fundamental need for the basics. You know, good road signs, good clarity on process, keeping people on the same topic. You know, the sort of facilitator 101 was almost more, well, no, it was more valuable than the high end dealing with the hot emotions, which is a necessary skill. But if you do the 101 stuff, it doesn't happen nearly as often.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the same thing in terms of with the boot camps, having signs, having handouts, having a schedule. That just that like really basic, you know, making it visible, making it clear. It can still be flexible, but that kind of visual structural scaffolding just makes it so much easier. And I think it so then you can kind of spend your energy on actually getting into the deeper stuff, you know. But yeah, it's sort of I think the short form of that is the importance of the basics.
Yeah.
Coming back to the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep going another round at least, and you can always pass if you don't have anything, but also or do you have other lessons that you want to add or build on something else you're hearing? Over to you, April.
Well, I just think a real lesson around just being open to anything possibly happening and being an outcome of, expected or unexpected, that life marches on and we don't control hardly anything, but just being open to what it is that is being revealed or emerging or whatever. Over to Heather.
Yeah, I'm going to pass. I don't think there's anything that I have read that I can articulate very well right now. It's swirling around a bit too much. Ronnie.
I can't hear you.
Love to hear you.
Hello?
There, that's better.
Okay. Anything can be a tool or a weapon, including AI. And I think staying open and also discerning to new ideas and new technologies is incredibly useful because you might discover really interesting things that you didn't expect. Over to Roland.
I'm going to agree with Heather. I don't have anything that is formed enough in my mind at this point to share. So I will pass to Ben.
The one I want to add, I just read this the other day, so it's very recent learning, but it seems very practical, which was there's Jake recommended a book, The Science of Enlightenment, and he talked about it's Shinzen Young, and he talked about an experience where he had like a peak experience moment meditating, and he went to talk to the senior monk who said, anything that you experience in meditation, you should be able to apply to any aspect of life. And that it is part of the practice is learning to apply it to increasingly complicated, complex situations. And so you start off in this very rarefied way of doing it, where you remove all of the extraneous variables. And then once you feel okay doing it there, then you start to apply it to simple tasks and small talk. And eventually you move up to challenging situations. And I had this aha that that's exactly what we're trying to do with the pharmastery, is create that kind of ladder of opportunities where we're starting with really controlled ways of collaborating, because that's still a very new skill. Like honest peer-to-peer collaboration is an unusual experience for most people. So we're trying, by creating these very controlled, almost artificial moments where you can experience it, and then we start to apply it to more and more challenging things. So it's really valuable that there's weeding that needs to get done and chickens that need to get watered, because it gives people an opportunity to do some of this stuff in a controlled way. So I feel like um, having that framework feels really useful, to be able to kind of name that. I guess also, April, what you were talking about, people are coming in looking for different things and different places in that development. So being able to sort of identify and support people at different places would be really useful.
Mhm.
Let's go once around where some people are passing, and we'll just see whether this could be their last round, and you can always pass, and then it'll be a quick round. So any other lessons that you want to get out there? April?
Um, it's just the usefulness of being able to debrief collectively on just about anything, but I'm thinking now in terms of the gumboot situations, but doing it together, there's just huge advantages, certainly for me. And occasionally there's even joy as part of that. On to Heather.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. Ronnie?
Pass to Roland.
Old lessons are as useful as new lessons, and the value of repetition. Over to Ben.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add. So are we good to move on to the next thing, or does anyone else have any last thoughts for the good of the cause on this particular topic? All right, ready to move on. Okay, so let's jump into the outreach plan. I know that we had a separate meeting to talk about outreach in relation to the outreach plan. And actually one of the things, let's see if I can show you. I'm gonna I did some little cleanup. Haha. So this is the outreach plan in Asana with all of the subtasks. And one of the things that we did in the outreach meeting was figure out which of the guilds we thought made the most sense to take the lead on these different tasks. And in Asana, we've always had, I just don't really talk about it much, but there's a value for which guild, and you can click more than one. So it's like a tag that you can put on the tasks. So we did a little, I think there was a lot of clarification in that conversation. And then I am led to believe Heartwork has had a bit of a similar conversation looking at the plan from the Heartwork perspective. So we can bring all of that in as we talk through what the next steps are. And then there are, so I think we've digested the plan a little bit more. And then since our last meeting, we had this exciting adventure where an offer came in and was being considered negotiated around for a while, and we had a long period of not knowing, how this was going to go. And so we also want to, with that in mind, think about how we want to tweak or update the outreach plan. And I mentioned that I did do a little processing with Aiden, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that was sort of produced, including a lot of sort of different frames for pitches for our different audiences. Sort of the elevator pitch version and an email version and a narrative version, da 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 da. And I don't want to go into all of those, but one thing that was really useful was a list of specific follow-up tasks where we are now, some things that we need to think about. So what Aiden was talking about was making sure that we get more certainty. We actually start pinning down numbers around what would it take in terms of a down payment, or however we're going to gather together the fundraising. What are some concrete targets and some timelines for when we will test whether or not we think we can get there. The other thing is to really get on with the outreach plan. So there's not a lot new here. Preparing the collateral materials, I think these are just other things that we can generate that are, I think the idea is that when we talk to someone, we want to be able to put a one-page summary in their hand that has all the important information. We probably have that and we can pull it together pretty quickly. But the one thing that's a little bit of a change here is actually adding targets for how many people we want to talk to and in what timeline. The one thing that was new in terms of formally, but I think this is something Roland and I have been doing informally for a while, is some scenario planning. And the three options: we can make it go here, we can't make it go here, but we can probably pull together investors someplace else, or plan B, sort of like a real significantly rethinking how we're going about doing it. And this is a me addition, not an Aiden thing. I want to get credit, but it's not all AI. In the scenario plannings, one of the things that's really important to an important product of scenario planning is the Venn diagram of it all. Because there are going to be some things that no matter scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, there are some things you're going to want to do. And so when we do those scenarios, or if we choose to do the scenarios, figuring out what is, no matter what, these are really the kind of clear next steps. And then there's some stuff in terms of like really getting down to brass tacks in terms of what would someone sign if they were going to, sign on the dotted line kind of thing. What does that look like? And again, I think we've got the details there. So anyhow, these are some sort of more specific next steps that Aiden was suggesting. And other than that, I'll just go quickly through, because of Roland's reminder that frequent reminders are useful. is the plan as we've talked through it in the past, is we've got some story seed ideas, which we all really liked, which are just a couple sentences that really are from the person that we're trying to talk to, from a retreat guest, from a timeshare cropper, from a caretaker. What would they say about why this is special? And then figuring out ways of using that for our communication strategy, updating our investment materials. That's really kind of a lot of those brass tacks things that Aidan was pointing out. They're already in the plan. Gathering testimonials, doing all of this to put together some kind of an announcement going out that lets people know, celebrate our accomplishments, and we're open to these ongoing conversations about investment and different kinds of investment. And sort of think about this as sort of parallel tracks. So one is sort of a more mass market, sending out the announcement, trying to get the word out in different places. The other is a more personal one-to-one thing, which is getting that list of people we've already talked to some degree or another, and then re-engaging those conversations. And we also talked about trying to set up some actual events where we can go and maybe do even in person. They could also be webinars. I think some of the language too, like inviting one of the things I'll share soon, there's inviting people to a special investors meeting where, you can, a potential, could be a webinar, but it's, sort of, you have to get get behind the velvet curtain kind of thing. And then basically making sure that we're tracking and learning from the responses that we're getting. So this is all from the second one down is all old. We've talked about it and seen it. The one thing that is new is sending a sort of a short-term update on the experience of the offer coming in. And one of the things is to what I was asking for is how do we channel that kind of nervous energy about the being in such an uncertain circumstance into forward motion, and use it as a motivation, not as something that kind of incapacitates. So the tone is really about it's future oriented, and it's around waking up, clarity, what becomes clear in those crisis moments, what we're learning, and get to very specific, this is what we need people to do if you're willing to do it. And to be able to give steps and timelines. So that's, kind of it narrows in some of the communication that we've been talking about just a little bit more. And this was the part that, in the as a quick aside, I've tried to use Aidan for some like data cleaning tasks. Don't do that. Not good use. These kinds of tasks, though, seem to be really, really effective. So this is all Aidan, and it's just a template, but I think it gives a really, and there's one for investors, for retreat folks, for and I'll give you all time just to read these.
What are you? I don't see it up on the screen. Do you have it somewhere else where I can?
Can you all see it?
Yeah,
No.
I see it.
I saw.
Okay.
Wow.
What
I don't know.
I can send you here. I'll send you a link.
Is
I'll
there
put-
something I've got turned off that I can't see? I normally can see if people are sharing their screen, I can always see it. I'm wondering if there's something I am not.
That I can't.
Sharing is not turned on, but I'm not sharing it, so I don't
No,
need.
you don't need to share. It should be.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, do whatever you can.
Well, actually, I can just read it out if that's okay with others.
Mhm.
So hi, name. I hope you're well. Quick update from the Farmisteri. We recently had a loud reminder of how precious and precarious the land is here. An offer came in on the property, and we prepared for several outcomes. The owner has decided not to sell for now, which gives us a fresh window to act more intentionally. What we learned, we can move quickly when needed, and we now have a much clearer financial and timeline markers for securing the place. We're seeking a small circle of investors to get us over the finish line. Specifically, we're aiming for this much money by this time. Would you be open to a 20-minute conversation this week to explore whether there might be a fit or to suggest someone who should be in this conversation? Even a warm introduction would be deeply useful. Thank you, sincerely, etc. And then that's where a one-pager, sort of a basic fact sheet, and then the levels of investment that we're looking for, how many people in how many categories. And then for retreat alumni and guests, dear friends, we had a week of high alert recently. The land we call home received an offer. We prepared to leave, and for a few days that possibility was real. The owner has chosen to stay for now, and we're breathing a careful sigh of relief. The good news is this: the experience clarified what mattered most and what we need to do to keep this place thriving. Over the coming months, we'll be reaching out about ways to support, from small monthly gifts to hosting friends and spreading the word. If the Farmisteri has touched you, would you consider one of these small acts? Share your one-pager with someone who might care, offer a testimonial we can share with potential supporters, or join a conversation with our team. Thanks for being part of the community. Signature. And then for Mavericks, for Mavens and network connectors, just a quick thing. Hey, quick ask. You came to mind as someone who knows people who care about place-based resilience. We're consolidating a short list of folks to talk with about investing in the Farmisteri. Mind a 5-minute call or name you'd be willing to introduce us to? Totally low key. It's probably not my voice, but I could imagine that somebody coming from someone. And then internally, the basically creating that one sentence line of, here's how to give updates to people. And I think that's, and then there's even FAQs, sort of the kinds of follow-up questions that we might expect from people, and having those available. So, and then there's a list of micro asks that we can sprinkle in here, there, and other places. Could you introduce us to one person who might care? Would you join a brief investor call on pick a date? Can you write a 1 or 2 line testimonial about your experience? And would you consider a small monthly gift to keep the doors open while we secure the purchase? So that is sort of one addition. So I guess at this point, I've just kind of did a big dump of info. So really the question before us is what seem like the best next steps. And let's just do a first circle, thoughts, reactions, and then we'll plan on doing 2. So, first thoughts and then response to what you're hearing from other folks. April, over to you.
I'm really impressed with the writing of these, for these different audiences. I think the approach is right. It's light, it's informative, it's positive, forward-facing, shows that there's the ability to learn from even under conditions of adversity, and that the persistence is there. So kudos on all of that. The next steps, I think, are really the practical ones. Get onto it with the lists.
Mhm.
Over to Heather.
Yeah, I agree with you, April. I've always been impressed as whenever you have read, the pitches seem to be not you can put it like just very conversational.
Yeah.
You know, not promotional. Does with no superboles and all that kind of thing that we're trying to talk you into something. So I think that that's really good. Um, when it comes to the work, I mean, I think it's all mapped out. It's really clear what needs to be done. I guess my question is, and this is a question I have for all the groups that I work with, is who's going to do the work?
Mhm.
Like, do we have people who see their relationship with this a strong enough reciprocal relationship that they can see getting back, like in all these groups, like who are the key people in these various different groups that have not only buy-in but really like they see this as one of their primary voluntary um choices that they're making with their life, right? I mean, I can say I love it, I support it, and whatever it is, but when the rubber hits the road, am I going to take an hour out here and there and get back to you and follow through and everything? So that's just my question. Um, and Ronnie,
I'm also very impressed with the writing, and I also think that the next steps in the process seem pretty clear. And we all already have assigned some of the tasks to specific people, so we're not, at least we're not starting from zero with that.
okay.
I guess I have a question that is maybe mostly for Roland and Ben around what is there anything that feels different now that affects the plan
Mm,
as it stands, and or is there anything else y'all want to share or that would be useful to process that would have an impact on the plan? I just want to make sure that that space is there for that, and I'll pass it to Roland.
Well, I have a process question. Do I respond to Ronnie's question, or do we tackle that separately?
I think respond. I think this is I would treat this using the sociocracy lingo, this would be like a point of clarification. And so you break the circle and you clarify the information and then you move back into the circle.
Okay. Well, first, agreed that working with Aiden on the texts as continuing to prove to be useful. And going through seeing if we agree with the steps, seeing how different they are. They don't look particularly different, and making sure that we like just sort of like crossing our T's and dotting our I's to make sure that everything is accounted for and assigned to someone or a group. I would recommend that. And in terms of has anything changed, I kind of don't want to go first because I'm going to steal things that I'm not sure who said it.
I
Um,
want you to go first, though.
okay.
If you're willing to, I would like you to go first because I
Okay.
always feel like I talk too much and I want to make sure that I hear you.
There's a difference between talking too much and talking a lot. Um, eh, so what, so I think um, Ben referenced the choir singing, and that we've been talking about, and I think it's a really great analogy that we've been holding the note for a long time and have not had a chance to take a breath. And so, and I think that we've also talked about, this is this could be our last push to make this particular project work. That and it's interesting, the aliveness of things. I was feeling energized and motivated and doing stuff, interacting with the land here and feeling part of it. And then we got the call that there was an offer put in, and suddenly all of these unexpected autonomous systems came in and cut off that sense. And how quickly that happened.
Mhm.
And so in part I'm holding trying to hold space open for this is a shock response.
Yeah.
And but I think it's an also and thing where it is in nature that you expend energy, and that's part of reciprocity, is expending energy. And at some point, an organism has no longer enough energy to expend. And so I think right now, I think we're feeling like the energy that we have expended is starting to um, uh, not refresh itself. And that uh, trying to take that in as information, as data, for what to do about it and what the next steps are. So anyway, all of that to say, I think that this is a bit of a wake-up call that uh, in one way or another, things need to change for us. How's that, Ben? Anything that you want to add? What's your perspective?
Very similar. And um, I guess, things to elaborate on that. One is also recognizing that, um, we may be causing problems by holding the note too long. And but there's also, and this is the dynamic tension, is the clarity around what we are both 100% committed to is creating the Pharmasteria experience. And where we get energized and where we get excited is when we can do that, and we can do that. And the frustration is, and everyone, and the people for whom or with whom we do that value it. And unfortunately, they're not the people that we need to convince to be able to make this happen.
Yeah.
You know, and that's part of the frustration, has been partly being able to articulate it and articulating it across these different audiences who are thinking about it differently. So having the language that Aidan is generating is really useful. And I think that what I'm willing to let go of, we were just having a conversation before this meeting, we're doing a whole bunch of stuff that neither of us are really excited about doing, because it enables us to do the stuff that we are excited about doing. And maybe there's a way that we don't have to do that stuff. Maybe there's an alternative. So that's, for me, part of that scenario planning, is thinking about what are some of the different options that are available. And at the same time, I think I'm getting off track here, but I'm also reminded that we put all of this together in this way, as complicated as it is, because it keeps addressing the challenges that we're seeing in other similar projects.
Yeah.
You know, the core finances of it. If you don't own the land, or if the land is owned in a way like some farms where there's a disconnect between who owns the land and the people who work the land, that also causes problems. Um, and how do you have reciprocity, financial reciprocity in a way without doing something very compromising on one side to pay for the good thing that you think you're doing on the other side? So, these are all real challenges that we think we've come up with, something. I think that we're feeling like we're getting to the end of our energy at pushing on this, but at the same time, it also feels like we've got this thing that, as far as I can tell, should work. And you know, it's so there's that as well. So what came forward for me in part was, we're gonna keep doing the pharmastery stuff. We just have to find a way of doing it where we're not um, well, and this is a problem I've felt my whole life. I feel like I spend 80% of my time and 80% of my energy getting permission to use 20% of my time the way I think I should, you know. And there's just so much uh heavy lifting involved in getting there. But then the thing that feels like it's at the core of it seems really important, and I don't want to lose that. Um, so I think what Roland said pretty much is it. We recognize something needs to change. We need to take care of ourselves. I can share my own fear and my history of trauma is when I have asked for what I have needed in the past, I have not gotten it. And I so it's very challenging for me to ask for what I need, in part because sometimes I've been in situations where by asking for it, it got withdrawn. you know so there is risk, and there's me confronting a lot of old demons in trying to move this forward. Anyhow, so I don't know whether that was a lot or too much, but that's my answer. And I guess we'll go back to Roland in terms of next. Actually, let me go back to Ronnie. Was that useful? Is that good? Um, well then, and back to you, Roland, for your feedback on next steps.
What?
Well, that's what we were doing. The round was kind of.
I started with that.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
So for next steps, over to you.
Yeah, I think I think it sounds to me like we're all dittoing. There's a plan. The plan seems workable, clear. It's just a matter of doing it and figuring out who's going to do it. And how do we figure out who's going to do which part and keep that going? Um, there's I can say, having done that whole thing about needing to take a breath, there are elements of this which I recognize this is in my own best interest to be able to put this forward. Especially in making some of the contacts, like this is a good reason to reach out to Norm Len. This is a good reason to talk to Chris. Um, actually, well, and to talk to Norm. I guess I want to say as an aside, personally, my gut tells me a retreat center focused on a living I-thought experience on land that was held and cared for in perpetuity would be a moneymaker. It wouldn't just be able to hold its own. It should be done in a way that could be a real moneymaker.
Could you say that again? I'm sorry, I'm trying to take notes and my brain shut down.
Oh, that's okay. Yes. So one of the first things when Roland and I were thinking about, well, maybe this is all going pear-shaped and what do we do next? We both want to take the indigenous focusing oriented therapy training.
I fought.
IFOT. And what we are
Uh,
doing,
okay.
yeah, it's ITFL. It's the grown-up version of ITFL.
ITHOT.
IFOT, IFOT.
Oh, thank you.
You thought it was I fought the law and the law won? As in I fought?
I fought, you fought, we all fought. Yeah. Indigenous focusing oriented therapy. And I am convinced that this should be, if anybody really knew where to invest their money, they would invest in this. Because I think it would be, you know, it could work. And I just don't know how to get to that point of pulling that all together. And that's why there's a fantasy I have is we talk to Norm and Norm talks to Vanessa and to Shirley Turcott, and we figure out how we secure this and it becomes a decolonization center for white people, you know, and I just don't know why people aren't lining up to give us money. But you know, that's the honest truth of it. And but I have a really hard time communicating that to people in a way that they want to line up and give me money. So I think that I can't remember even where this came from, but um, yeah, I have no idea why I went off on that tangent, so I'm going to stop and
Fun to
pass
go
over.
off on.
I'll
Yeah.
pass over to April.
Well, it's a refinement on pharmastery, on chatting about pharmastery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk further about this. And I want us not to lose sociocracy and teaching other people about that as well,
Mhm.
integrated in with IFOT or not. But I think I mean, that's IFOT is one kind of training that can happen at the pharmacery, but I think there's also additional stuff that you already have that can also be part of that. It might not make as much money as IFOT with the people lining up for it, but I think there's all kinds of things that could fall into that. So need to talk further.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's really good to have a clear vision. I mean, some parts of the vision are clear. And you already know how to do this stuff. So yeah, don't lose that, I guess. What was the question we were supposed to be answering in this round? Sorry.
I think I've lost the thread too. We were talking about next steps. It seems like we're clear on next steps. And
Response to that.
yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. We're just responding. So it's clear. How do we get the people to do what needs to be done?
So can I just add that I think we need to follow the plan that's already there in terms of investment and getting people to understand where this is at this point. But I think that there is a secondary or a second tributary to the river, which is working on the IFOT stuff and how that can work with a view to getting something started within the next year. I would say to getting paying customers within a year.
Mhm.
That's all I have to say. Over to Heather.
Yeah, I see it also interrelated. It's kind of like it's iterative, right? I mean, if you did have some really good, clear training session or experiential learning or whatever it is, so you could demonstrate this is
Mhm.
what the center is about, and then you also at the same time are, you know, growing and putting up and having people come and getting the agriculture working on the farm that people could see it's an actually working project.
Mhm. Mhm.
That to me is probably the easiest, and I can get involved in that. What's way above my pay grade, and I've said this right from the beginning, is that I don't, like you, I don't know how to appeal to people who have the resources to contribute and at the same time are aligned with our values. So they get us. They get us and they got money. Boy, I mean, that's to me like, I don't know how to do that, Ben. And that's why, you know, when Plan B take the whole thing and put it on Linnea, yeah, they've got the infrastructure, they own the land, they've got 50 plus acres, they've got a community that wants them to be doing agriculture and education combined. And I'm thinking that I want both those projects to happen and to go forward, and then you can be sisters, you know? So that's the ideal. But at the same time, I think, oh my God, couldn't we just, what if we just had the land? We know how to do all this if we had the land,
Mhm.
you know?
I do.
So, yeah, so like almost like if in your position, it's almost like having, like you say, like three people who, if all, like, let's say we are three people or four people or whatever it is and say, okay, we're going to make this happen. If you're in, I'm in. I want I want it protected, but demonstrate to me if you can, and this is what you need to demonstrate before I will actually sign on the bottom line. I mean, I don't know that. I don't know what those funders expect and what the blocks might be if we just haven't asked in the right way. And I don't know who has that information. So I'm not sorry that I'm not helpful. I'm helpful in other ways, but this piece of it is still very mysterious to me. Whew. And you, Ronnie, is it mysterious to you?
In terms of the practical next steps, I'm committed to my task of putting together the newsletter with the announcement that we've been talking about, using some of the language, the updated language about not just the story seeds, but about what has happened most recently. So, kind of telling that piece of the story. And this is something I don't know why hasn't occurred to me before, but um, there seems to be a fair amount of energy in the sort of regenerative world around alternative education for children.
Hmm.
And I'm specifically thinking about there's a summer camp that's been going on for a long time called Power of Hope. And it's for teenagers. And the organization actually provides the experience for free. I think they have grants and stuff. So underprivileged kids, quote unquote, can access this camp. But they've had one on Whidbey Island for a really long time, which isn't that far away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've also had one in Southern California. But I could see the Pharmastery as an amazing place to host a camp like that, that's teaching kids to how to collaborate, empowering them to share their gifts, doing music, doing art, doing farming. And my friend has attended that camp and has been a counselor there for over 10 years.
Mm.
So I'm going to reach out to them and just poke around a little bit and see if, how connected they are to the people who run the camp, and just ask, are they looking for other locations? Is there somebody that I could talk to, just to kind of see what might be possible, because that would be a way to generate a lot of interest if that's something that y'all might be open to. And then like other people from the BC area could send their kids there. I think it's like a 1 week camp or 2 weeks. It's not like a huge summer thing.
Mhm.
I
Anyway,
think, yeah, I think that's where Sarah Dent got her start.
oh,
That's very familiar to me. Yeah. Would be good to ask.
Cool. I will pass to Roland.
Well, first I want to allay, I don't know how to pronounce that word, April's fears. Uh, if adopting IFOT does not mean that we're going to be throwing everything else out. I have no interest in being an acolyte to any one thing. I like the impure, I like the mixing, and we're not just espousing this stuff. We're not just espousing sociocracy, we live it every day.
Yeah.
And it's just become a part of how we do things. So don't worry about sociocracy not being taught, shown, used, practiced, or circle process, or any of the other many things, because I think that's part of the strength. It's showing how mixing things makes every biodiversity. And for I also was wanted to say we may have people who give can help in figuring out if there is different wording or different criteria that people, well-heeled people who are aligned with us can hear. I'm thinking of the recent connection with might be, and I've never met him, so I really don't know, but it's the name that came up. Maybe someone who could give some information in that area, since none of us have it. Um, and yeah, I think having a Heartwork ad hoc meeting to talk through the bits and pieces, to go through Aiden's plan and what the outreach proposed for as a Heartwork stuff is probably our next step
Great.
for that guild. So over to you, back to you, Ben.
Yeah, and it just reminds me too, I think Ruth made a good point of when we're using people's names who aren't here, we probably want to screen that on the video. And yeah, I think what I need most of all, one of the things I need is just moral support in doing a lot of this, the calling. I believe Chris can probably help us. I'm feeling pretty good about the messaging. I don't think it's the messaging.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's really just introducing us to the people for whom the messages are appropriate. And I think that and Heather, I feel like it sounded like you were saying what we need to do is get up something that we can show people is working, and we've done it.
Okay, yeah.
And we have real life testimonials of people saying amazing things about what we've been able to accomplish in their experiences here. And ditto what Roland was saying about, I don't see a separation between IFOT and sociocracy.
No.
And you know what I mean? That these are different. And likewise, I don't see the farming is not incidental. The farming is integral because it forces you to actually watch and look in ways that most people don't. And it's kind of funny, I was just thinking, I think I'm getting tired and I'm going to ramble just a second, but like we have all these funny stories about woofers coming and, not being able to identify spinach, or, you send them out to pick something, you send them out to pick, tomatoes and they come back with onions. It's just this sort of like that level of disconnect where people just don't see what's around. And that's the whole point of I hold very closely to the Wasanic elder who said the land is our Bible and our language helps us read it. And I feel like we could substitute in the land is our Bible and IFOT or or Circle help us read it. You know, it's about slowing down and noticing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, on our farm, we had certificates in the early days. And when a student went through, we gave them these fancy certificates saying that they now know the difference between parsley and buttercup. And, and you
Well,
know
and you know
what?
the
I,
difference between parsley and buttercup, at least they're close. You know, there are some people where it's like you send them out for an herb and they come back with a tuber. You know, it's
Yeah, I know. It's just that I mean, all those things I think are enhanced and they're really fun and they're creative, and I totally know that all of us can do that. It's
Mhm.
it's again, it just keeps coming back to we just need some fairly large, and even the smaller investors are
Yeah,
are within our network.
yeah,
It's the people that have like $500,000 that is not it. They're not in my network.
yeah.
So I actually don't know what to say to them.
Well, and that is, I think that's there, and we don't need to know because I think we have contacts who can.
Enough at the
Yeah.
contacts that
And I
have.
think we have multiple contacts who can talk to people in different, and I think Norm is probably one of those contacts. You
Yeah.
know, he's an ED, he knows how to go out there and ask for money. And um anyhow, I think it is just kind of how do we hold to the course, you
And
know?
what does he need from us?
Yeah.
What
Well,
does
and that's the thing, and we and that's that conversation I want to have, and I just need a little bit of a like nudges and some support in um, you know, if people could be doing some if we could figure out a way um where I could get some admin support actually.
oh,
Yeah,
Um
start to
what kind of
saying what
support?
does the support look like? Name
That's
the
yeah.
things that
yeah,
name the things that would be useful for
yeah,
you,
yeah.
as frivolous as they might be, like, you know,
Well, it's somebody who can book meetings, you know, like um help it cleaning up notes and keep like cleaning up a CR. I think we need something like a CRM, or I think that could be helpful, but very, very lightweight. But you know, somebody who could set that up or clean that up. And I don't know. Actually, you know, it's like a booking agent. I think that's
Yeah.
really because I think there are all sorts of presentation opportunities.
Yep.
Um, uh, and but like somebody who's kind of just a booking agent who could say, you know, who's up for a sociocracy webinar? You know, all sorts of ways that we could hook in there. Anyhow, I am definitely my brain has just sort of shut down and I'm feeling stupid. Um,
I have one last question. You just mentioned CRM, and in the notes from the last meeting, I think Aiden was going to be brought into the CRM question, and um, we haven't gone over that already, and I've just forgotten, have we?
It is part of the outreach plan. The end is the CRM requirements. So
Right.
there is a scaffolding for what are the important pieces of information. And there is also, I believe, a record where what I haven't done is determined like what the software form of that is.
Right.
Um, and I do believe that that's a little bit. Oh, actually, Ruth said that if we had the requirements, Ruth could do a little bit of that legwork to see what the bare minimum is. So maybe I can just um, tap Ruth on the shoulder for that. All right, I think I am definitely fading. So I'm going to do our standard closing, which is 2 rounds. Any last pieces of business, things that we just need to get off your chest, and then we'll do a closing round where we can just last thoughts for the good of the cause. So April, over to you. Any nagging last pieces of business?
No nagging last pieces of business, but I feel like we need to have part B of this conversation, just to really, really pin down some things and maybe to loft out a little bit more of the dreaming and visioning stuff, because I can see all kinds of possibilities. And mapping comes to mind. I mean, this is the same kind of work that I do for other clients, right? And so happy to do it here. It is easy for me to do that kind of work, not so easy for me to do the other kind of administrative work that you've spoken of. But anyway, would be happy to be engaged in this. And just to say that this has been for me a really interesting and fundamental session that we've just done. And once again, thank you, everybody, for being not quite in a circle around me, but it kind of feels like that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. Over to Heather.
Yeah, well, I'm here. I'm still here. Um, I'm like April, though. I need administrative support for what I do. And so
Yeah.
I'm not offering it to you, Ben. But if there's anybody in your network at all and you can be really clear about what you want, I think that's what people need. I so encourage and support you to go for that, to not be shy about it, not
Yeah.
and if there's a way you can, if there's a reciprocal way you can see it as reciprocal, that is even better.
Mm.
The reciprocity that comes to mind is pay someone to do it, which is not an ugly thing. But even though I am in the finance and fundraising or whatever it is, I have no idea what your personal finances are. And I certainly haven't been asked to put in any finances to keep us going administratively. But these kind of functions are the first things we do. The first thing we do is we say, we need an administrative assistant, and here's a list of things to do, and we're going to pay you so much an hour, or so much in produce, or whatever. Anyway, so yeah, I'm good. I'm not good, but I'm complete. Ronnie,
I'm wondering if we want to schedule another outreach guild meeting to get more into the continuing on with the plan step by step. Coordinating with Ruth, coordinating, yeah, with everybody.
Probably not a bad idea.
I will, like I've said, I will draft the newsletter and put it out to Roland and Ruth for feedback, slash also Ben, perhaps. I also just want to name that now that I'm in school and working, my capacity is very diminished to take on any more stuff. And that's a really hard place for me to be in because I feel I am so emotionally and spiritually invested in this project, but I can't take on things that I don't know if I'll be able to do. Like that doesn't feel fair. So, yeah, that's just my reality at this point. But I'm here and I will keep showing up as much as I can. And that's all I got. Over to you, Roland.
Um, I want to suggest that instead of us specifically thinking that we can do the administrative stuff, that if we can't, I know I have tried and I am not good at it. But like Heather started to give ideas on how to do that. And is there a way or a person or somebody who's not here, who's already involved, who could lend a hand, and how to get that message out to them? Or is there anyone that any of you know that you could talk to, or a program, or I don't know. But instead of just thinking about, no, I can't do this, I'm not available, or I don't have the capacity, or I don't have the skills, can we think about ways to be able to fill that need? So that is a suggestion that I am making. And I think this was a really great meeting. I'm so glad that you're all here, and I appreciate and I love you. Over to Ben.
hmm Ditto that last bit. And and Ronnie, better to underpromise and overdeliver. And which is also one of the other things I found out about AI is if you ask the AI, it can do anything and it can do it great, whether it can or can't. So it needs to learn a little humility. And but yeah, I mean, I think being honest, that's this whole project is about being able to show up how you are and not being guilted and shamed into trying to do more than you can.
Yeah.
So I'll just add another bottle of Absolution onto your tab. We're just racking them up here. In terms of our finances, we're totally tapped out. We've been carrying this for too long, and we are hand to mouth at best. So that is one of the other things is, and I like in some of the asks to be, we do have means for people to do monthly contributions or one-time contributions. And so, again, it's figuring out ways of getting the word out with some fire underneath it to try to, get something happening there. And I don't think I have anything to add on any of this. It sounds like what we needed to keep on keeping on. And so I think another outreach meeting would be great. Another heart work meeting would be great. My take is the more meetings that we have from me, the more work gets distributed. And so, that's all good. And just looking at. Okay, cool. April.
You could see me just twitching
I
here.
could. Yes, I could.
Thank you. Why don't we put in the newsletter that's going out, why don't we say we need someone to do administration?
Yes, that's my thought too.
Yeah, absolutely. And just say, we've identified this as a critical need. We are not resource rich, but we need to figure out how to make this happen. And
You know what we can do, actually? We can pay people with a free week at the pharmacery.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like that would be the best that we could offer.
And I'm willing to offer some coaching if that is any kind of a incentive for folks. Anyway, just wanted to say that. Thank you.
I've got it in writing.
And recorded.
Yeah, that's right. All right. We are at time. I'm officially closing the business. There can be no more business. And now once around just to say our farewells. So actually, I'm going to throw in a checkout question, which is what's one thing you're looking forward to next? Over to you, April.
I'm looking forward to pumpkin pie
Oh.
in my very near future.
Oh.
Over
Yeah.
to Heather.
Well, I was thinking, I'm looking forward to Ben finding someone to help him with the administration. Yeah, I mean, that would be just wonderful, Ben, if you could do that. And then if you can think of a way I can do that too, then even better.
Hmm.
Over to Ronnie.
My friend is giving their very first official sermon on Sunday, and I'm excited to go hear it.
Oh, wow.
Over to Roland.
I am looking forward to putting food in my belly and lay my head down to sleep. Or to Ben.
Cocktail.
Oh.
2 words, cocktail. So yeah. All right. Thank you all for being here and continuing to be here, and for all the support that you provide. So thanks, and onward and upward. And we'll see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.